Welcome to Hardships of a Vampire, The Ghost Call. This is a visual novel where you play as this cutie of a vampire. It's Halloween night, and Halloween means ghost, and apparently vampires can get possessed? Maybe with the power of Yaoi, you'll be able to figure out how to deal with this ghost problem, and maybe get some smooches along the way. Also, there's a cat petting minigame, and that is obviously the most important part of this game. It was 5 in the morning. Thanks to it being winter, the sun wouldn't rise for another hour or so. Good word today, Elias. Oliver, let's leave. Which direction are you going? This way. Great. My car's also parked near the block. Let's walk together. Oliver and Elias, Oliver's co-worker, were leaving after they had finished work at the convenience store. It was rare that they both worked together during the night shift. Due to the high crime rate in their area, most people didn't want to work the night shift, though it was mandatory for 2 people to handle the shift together. It was rare that 2 people actually turned up. Oliver mostly worked alone at night because he could only work the night shift. It was an unfortunate symptom of being a vampire. The sun wasn't Oliver's friend, and he needed the money to buy blood, which had been getting more and more expensive. As a newly turned vampire, Oliver had become even more broke than he had been as an orphaned human. Being a vampire was so expensive. As for Elias, Oliver didn't know why he sometimes joined him on the night shift. Since their first day of working together, Elias had always given Oliver the impression of being a person who was above money. The handsome man looked too good for his manual job, and while he dressed plainly, there was a certain sense of regality to him. Elias was carrying some bags of cat food that he'd bought from the store before leaving. That was new. That looks heavy. Do you want some help? Thank you, but these bags are easy to manage. Elias lifted the bags high with only one hand. Yeah, I see that. Did you recently adopt a cat? A wild one. Yeah, this was 2 weeks ago. He doesn't seem to like me, though. I'm sure he'll warm up to you soon. Oliver looked at the cat food. There was a sticker on it showing a black cat with the line of text, "Even ghost cats will love this." He laughed. They even do Halloween marketing on cat food these days? Oliver, do you believe in ghosts? Huh? Oliver turned and saw Elias's face close to his expression darkened by the shadows. Oliver blushed and took a step back. Why did Elias always seem to step into his personal space? Sorry, did I startle you? Yeah, I was spacing out and... So, do you think ghosts exist? That's so random. What gives? Well, just think about what season it is. I thought it'd be a good topic for small talk. Oh, right. I guess Halloween is 3 days away. I think ghosts will be the least of our worries, though, working in this place. Oliver gestured to the dark, dirty road, which was dimly lit by some rare, unbroken road lights. I was just asking if you think they exist. They could be cute, harmless ghosts and all that. Oliver seriously thought about that. Considering his own existence, would he himself count as a ghost? He had died, but his soul was still bound to his body, which now needed another source of energy. Or maybe his soul had ceased to exist when he'd become a vampire, and his body was keeping itself animated in a different way. Oliver wanted to believe that souls existed, and his body was more than just a husk. Yeah, I think it does. Me too. I'm glad that we think alike. So Oliver, you should be careful. There might be cute, harmless ghosts out there, but there are scary ones too. You'd best keep an eye out. I wouldn't want you to get hurt. Now, I need to go this way. I'll see you later. And you're not even gonna leave without like a goodbye kiss? Give me a smooch! Elias, I need that smooch now! Elias patted Oliver's shoulder. Then he turned a corner and walked into an alley, waving back at Oliver over his shoulder with one hand, until he was engulfed in darkness. What in the... Oliver stood there, dumbfounded. He touched his shoulder, wondering what Elias had meant by that. What a mysterious man Elias was. Oliver could never understand him. Oliver decided to take a shortcut to get home. He needed to get back as soon as possible before the sun rises. Suddenly, he heard strange sounds from a nearby alley. "Give that phone to me, brat! And all your money, too! You'll regret it otherwise." Someone was being robbed. Oliver knew that he should ignore it. His time outside was limited, and if he showed up to help, he would most likely be robbed along with the victim. He also needed the money to buy his blood supply for that month. "Stay away from me!" That was clearly the voice of a kid. Unfortunately, Oliver found his feet moving on their own towards the source of the disturbance. He couldn't ignore them now, not when he knew the victims were children. As he was about to turn a corner, he sent an emergency message to the police with their location. The police weren't very competent, and they had trouble handling such a lawless area, but they still had to keep up appearances. They would probably show up late, but they'd still show up at some point. This was what Oliver had learned, at least, after being robbed and assaulted multiple times during his first year of working at the convenience store. As Oliver was about to come out from his hiding place, a bright blue light flashed in the alleyway. "Ah!" Suddenly, there was a scream. It was the robber. Heavy footsteps followed, which began to fade away. It sounded like the kid had escaped. Oliver peeked at the alley again, but his eyes blurred from the sudden flash. A strange scene materialized before him. His vision was so blurry that he could barely make out a burly man crouching on the ground, an electric blue translucent human form floating above him. The ghostly form turned towards the corner where Oliver was hiding, which startled him. Then it disappeared. Oliver rubbed his eyes. Except for the crouching robber, the alley was empty. As he decided to retreat to avoid trouble, a thought nagged in his mind. Had he really seen a ghost? It was all Elias's fault that he was thinking so much about this now. Logically, Oliver knew that he shouldn't be afraid of ghosts, not when he was a member of the undead himself. But this ghost had taken down a huge man, something Oliver never would have been able to do. As Oliver thought this, his pace through the maze of alleyways became faster and faster. He hoped the ghost wouldn't follow him. Bam! As Oliver turned a corner, he hit something hard and was knocked over, a body falling on top of him in the process. Oliver? Leo? Leo was a frequent customer at his convenience store. He'd become a regular after Oliver had helped him out a bit. He was really enthusiastic, and he often hung around to talk to Oliver after buying something. Oliver didn't want to assume, but he had a feeling that Leo went to the store to keep Oliver's company during those late nights. Oliver was always grateful to Leo for that. Oliver didn't know for certain, but he guessed that Leo was a member of a nearby gang, because he'd looked like he'd been involved in a bloody fight the first time they'd met. Leo also complained to Oliver about how his boss kept calling him at odd hours to do dangerous jobs, though he never specified what those jobs involved. Oliver, fancy meeting you here. Why are you in such a hurry? I just saw something that surprised me. Really? What? Are you hurt? Leo leaned in and scanned Oliver up and down. His face was so close that it made Oliver blush. It's nothing really. I just thought I saw a ghost. A ghost, huh? Well, it's almost Halloween. Did you get a good look at it? To Oliver's surprise, Leo seemed to be taking this seriously. It was blue and translucent. Nah, it doesn't ring a bell. I thought it might have been a particular member of the undead. Undead? Yeah, like vampires and zombies, that sort of thing. Immaterial beings are rare. I've heard they can't be seen too easily in this plane of existence. You've heard? Whoops. Leo laughed, then ran a hand through his hair. I wasn't supposed to let that slide. Don't mind me, Oliver. It's just a myth. I'm big into the supernatural, and since it's Halloween, well, I guess I got a bit excited. Well, I had been wondering about your clothes for a while. I guess it makes sense. And would you mind taking a step back, please? To be honest, the crosses on Leo's outfits were making Oliver feel uncomfortable at such close quarters. Mass-produced decorative crosses and fashion accessories didn't usually bother Oliver, but Leo seemed surprisingly authentic. He was probably more passionate about his hobbies than he let on. Well, it's Halloween. Never hurts to be properly protected. You never know what might be lurking out there. You know, you're the second person who's told me that today. Hey, how about this? I can lend you one of my earrings if you like. It was enchanted by a powerful cleric. It should keep you safe as long as you hold on to it. I don't think that's a good idea. Leo removed his earring off and reached towards Oliver. Oliver, meanwhile, scuttled back, avoiding the offending earring. He could feel the threatening aura from that earring. Even from a distance, he was sure it would be very painful if he made contact with that thing. I'm just imagining, like, the earring just emitting an ominous aura. It's just so funny to think about it that way. No. I can't take something so valuable. I'm afraid I'd lose it. I could never keep track of something so small. Are you sure? 100% sure. Besides, I can take care of myself. Leo looked disappointed, but he accepted this. Fine. Then how about this? Leo started rummaging through his pockets, but Oliver cut him off. Oh, look at the time. I have to go home now. See ya. Oliver turned on his heels and ran, avoiding whatever offending objects Leo could try and thrust onto him next. Man, if I didn't know him any better, I'd say Leo was trying to get us killed. At long last, Oliver finally got home safely. The sight of the rusty door under the staircase looked a lot more inviting than it usually did. Oliver sighed in relief as he shut himself in his room. He had only managed to move out from the vampire shelter 2 weeks ago. Now he lived in what seemed to be a janitor's room under a staircase in an apartment. It was cramped and damp, but these were the only lodgings he could afford, what with all the other expenses. The room didn't have a window, which probably broke some sort of health and safety code. For a vampire like Oliver, however, it was a bonus. Oliver opened his rusty fridge. The only thing inside was a nearly depleted blood bag. It's running low. I need to visit Robert again soon. Robert was the owner of a legal vampire shelter, who also sold blood supplements for vampires sourced from various places. Despite popular beliefs, it was taboo for vampires to take blood from humans forcefully. The government was aware that vampires existed, and it employed a group of vampire hunters to exterminate dangerous vampires who couldn't abide by the law. At least that was what Oliver had heard. As Oliver closed the fridge, he felt a sudden pain in his hand. Forgot about this electrical leak. Oliver had moved in with nothing to his name. The furniture and appliances in his room had been there from the beginning, and they were included in the rent, at least according to the landlord. Oliver had some suspicions because the room looked as though it had been lived in recently, with many clothes and personal items left behind. The landlord had refused to tell Oliver what happened to the old tenant, and Oliver hadn't been able to press the issue. He couldn't afford to be choosy, not when he had so little money. In the end, nobody had returned to claim the old items lying around in Oliver's room, so Oliver had put them away in a storage box. If he'd been an ordinary human, he probably would have found it suffocating to live in such a dark, dinky, claustrophobic room. Oliver sat down in front of his old laptop and started to work on his second job. It was a data entry gig online that employed Oliver at the lowest rate possible. Oliver knew he was being taken advantage of, but he had no choice. During the day, he couldn't leave his room, and he never had the chance to study for any career before his life had changed. One job, meanwhile, wasn't enough to sustain even the most frugal of vampires. Sometimes Oliver wondered whether it was worth it to try so hard. It was dark. He was suffocating. Oliver was desperate to breathe, but he couldn't. He was dying. Wait, he was already dead. Why did he need to breathe? A feeling of anguish washed over him. He didn't want to die. He had to live. He still had to. Had to what? Oliver woke up with a painful, burning sensation in his leg. I fell unconscious? Ugh! How? The searing pain shot through his body from his leg, which was literally burning under the sunlight. I'm outdoors? Oh no, the sun isn't fully set yet. Gritting his teeth, Oliver limped on his hands and knees and frantically pulled his whole body into the shade. This looks bad. I'll need to buy more blood to heal this. Half of his right leg was in a sorry state. The skin was pretty much charred. He could still smell the burning. To his relief, most of the damage was on the surface, and he could still move his leg. His paycheck was a week away, and he had barely any more money left. This was terrible for a broke vampire. Then again, he had much more pressing matters to worry about, such as getting inside as quickly as possible. Oliver was lucky there was so much shade, and that the sun had almost set already. It was no longer visible above the tall buildings. Looking around, he recognized this place. It was a small walkway next to a river close to this building. Oliver got up, scooting close to the wall, and limped away as fast as possible. As soon as the door closed behind him, Oliver threw himself on his bed and let out a heavy sigh. Finally, he could think about what happened, but try though he might, he was at a loss. This didn't make any sense. He'd just been sitting in his room, working, then he found himself outside with a burning leg. He couldn't have been sleepwalking, could he? No, that didn't make sense either. He didn't need to sleep, not unless he purposely put himself into energy conservation mode. Besides, in that mode, his body was practically dead, which made sleepwalking impossible. The lack of control scared him. What if next time he found himself waking up directly under the sun? He needed to ask Robert about this. When Oliver arrived at Robert's restaurant in the evening, the place was pretty busy. On the outside, Robert's restaurant was a normal family restaurant that served cheap food to humans. There was one key difference, however, which set it apart from a regular family restaurant. It also served vampires. Welcome back, Oliver. Going to your usual booth? There were several curtain booths for the regulars, which provided vampires privacy when they needed to feed. Can I talk to Robert? I have something important to ask him. Okay, come with me. Wait, what happened to your leg? Oliver had changed his pants and fully covered the injury, but he was still limping and wincing with every step. I'd like to know what happened too. Oh, hey there. Well. If it isn't Oliver. Did you run out of blood already? You don't usually see me this early. Robert's booming voice reached Oliver's ear the moment the door of the back room closed. Oliver sometimes wondered how Robert had kept his business running in secrecy for so long when his voice was so loud. Maybe the back of the building was soundproof. I kinda got into a disagreement with the sun. Oliver pulled up his pants leg to reveal the burn. What? How could you be so careless? Don't tell me you risked getting a sunburn so you could work a few more hours in that thankless job of yours. I told you money was tight. You could always ask me for help. Don't you know this place exists to support young vampires like you? I said it was way too early for you to move out. It's nothing like that. I know my limits. I was about to ask you about this strange incident. Stop. Drink this before talking. Robert turned around, opened a locked cabinet, and took out a very tiny vial of blood. It was only as big as a third of a finger. This one's nice and fresh. It was donated by a young, healthy athlete. It's much better quality than the usual frozen stuff you usually bought. Just this little amount could heal your injuries instantly. Hey, frozen's just fine. I don't mind taking my time with my blood. Besides, there was no way Oliver could afford high-quality blood like that. Yeah, don't be like that, Oliver. It's on the house. I couldn't possibly. Drink it right now. I won't do business with you no more. Oliver conceded and took the vial from Robert. Thank you, Robert. Without your help, I would never would have gone this far. I don't do this for just anyone, you know. You're a great kid, Oliver. Practically the nicest child I've ever taken in. My offer to adopt you is still on the table, you know. My wife adores you. Thank you. That's very kind. I just want to try working for myself a little longer. Oliver opened the vial of blood and downed it. True to Robert's words, the blood was of the highest quality. The bird skin on his leg rapidly dried up and fell off, leaving smooth and unblemished skin underneath. Whoa, I know you said this was effective, but I didn't think it would be this effective. Of course it is. So, what was it you wanted to ask me about? So, this happened. I see. So you lost control of your body and woke up outdoors, huh? Sounds like a case of possession to me. Possession? You mean that could really happen? Well, duh. Creatures like us exist, so why wouldn't ghosts? Oliver, do you believe in ghosts? Had that really been a coincidence? So, are you saying that a ghost possessed me? Uh-huh. It's rare, but it's the time of year where this stuff usually happens. So a ghost can possess me, just like that. Well, it's actually easier for ghosts to possess the undead than humans, especially newly turned vampires like you. And it only really happens around Halloween, when the barrier between the material and immaterial world is at its weakest. When you died, your physical body became an undead, and it had to reestablish its connection with your soul. That connection's pretty weak during the first couple of years after being turned, which lets rogue souls take control over you with the right conditions. Oliver shuddered at the implications. Could another soul really steal his body just like that? Yeah, don't be too scared. A rogue soul can't take you over permanently. It's not correctly synced to your body. The soul without a body can't stay in the mortal world for long. It needs to return to the other side within a week of Halloween, or it'll disappear. Oliver let out a sigh of relief. But possession can be a real serious condition, because ghosts are driven by their purpose to stay in this world. They tend not to think about how it'll affect their host. Oh, there are many vampires that can get killed while they're being possessed. The ghost might recklessly walk out into the sun or commit crimes to avenge themselves and get punished by vampire hunters in return. Robert, you're scaring me. Surely there must be some way to make the ghost leave me alone. Those cases are pretty rare, so I'm not really sure. There's usually some kind of catalyst that compels these ghosts to go after people, though. For example, you might have something that belonged to the ghost, or you might have visited a place the ghost did while it was alive. I don't think I have belongings. I don't think I have any belongings other than my clothes and laptop. I thought I saw something that looked like a ghost last night. Something that looked like a ghost? Yeah, it was translucent. It was a translucent, glowing blue figure. That doesn't make sense. Ghosts shouldn't be visible. Without a body, their presence in the human world is very weak. And during the rare cases clairvoyants have been able to see them, they aren't blue. Never heard of them glowing in the dark. Maybe a human was using a lamp nearby, or some kind of glowing toy. Well, I heard fighting before I saw the ghost. Do you think it was some sort of weapon? Wait, why were you loitering around fighting humans? Haven't I told you that's dangerous? I heard a kid's voice, though. Robert patted Oliver's shoulder. Look, kid, I know you have a good heart, but you're not a human anymore. That means you don't have any human rights. You also don't have any of the same obligations humans do either. A young vampire like you is vulnerable to many things. Even formless things like ghosts can harm you. Can't help it though. I'd never be able to ignore somebody in trouble, and even if I do get attacked, they won't be able to kill me. Well, I can't stop you, but you should try valuing your second life a bit more. You should probably try to find some clues about the ghost though. If you don't have any haunted items, maybe you did go into a haunted place? Didn't you move into a rental recently? Oliver thought about the room he was staying in. It definitely looks like it could be haunted. You could look for clues about the identity of the ghost. Ghosts are usually driven by some attachment to the living world. If you could help fulfill the ghost's last desire so it no longer feels attached, they'll probably leave you alone. And if that's impossible? Get an exorcist to get rid of ghosts, I guess. But, they might get rid of you in the process since you're a vampire. That's not funny. Sorry, kid. Don't know any exorcists myself. I tend to avoid them as much as possible. How about this? I can lend you one of my earrings. It was enchanted by a powerful cleric. Should keep you safe so long as you keep it close. Actually, now that Oliver thought about it, Leo might have known an exorcist or two. He wanted to avoid that himself, however, if at all possible. Well, if worse come to worse, you could always stay in one of the underground confinement rooms here. The ghost can't harm your body while you're locked up. You only need to stay down there until a week after Halloween passes. Oliver shuddered at the thought. The confinement rooms exist to lock up vampires who lost control of themselves and who were liable to attack humans violently, just like animals. Oliver had seen a vampire like this only once before, and he'd not been able to bear look at its lifeless, zombie-like eyes. The thought of being incarcerated with those wild beasts gave him goosebumps. I think that's overkill. I believe I can manage. Good luck, kid. Be careful out there. The convenience store work that night passed uneventfully, thankfully without a repeat of the possession problem. Oliver let Elias take over and was about to leave when Elias called out to him. You've been sighing a lot today, and your complexion looks worryingly pale. Did something happen? It's that obvious, huh? Oliver hadn't noticed at first, but he now realized his energy had been depleting much faster than usual. The dose of blood Robert gave him would have usually given him a week's worth of energy. But it was less than 8 hours later, and he already felt hungry, as though he had not had any blood at all. If this was a side effect of possession, then even if it wouldn't get him killed, it would certainly kill his wallet. Just let me know if you need any help, Oliver. It's nothing. It wasn't like Oliver could tell Elias he'd been possessed, and he definitely couldn't tell him that he was a vampire. He'd sound insane. Remember what I talked about yesterday? Ghosts can be dangerous. You can always ask for help if you need it. Oliver froze. Elias sounded like he knew something. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. Oliver decided that he should look for some clues on his own before he began bothering other people. As Oliver hurried home, he ran into Leo again. Oliver! Do you think it's fate we've met here twice in a row? Well, this is my way home. And this is also the patrol route the boss assigns me to, so it's still fate though. Oliver didn't want to get embroiled in any of the most likely illegal activities Leo and his gang got up to, so we hope not. Wait, you look really pale. Did you get sick or something? First Elias, now Leo? Oliver wondered if it's one of the side effects of being possessed by a ghost was now looking uglier. It's nothing. I think I just need to get more sleep. Are you sure you don't want to borrow one of my earrings? It's authentic and works well. Promise. Don't worry, I'm good. I have urgent business at home, so I've got to go now. Oliver ran past Leo as quickly as possible, before Leo could pass him any of his torture toys. He appreciated the thought, though. As Oliver arrived home, he decided to start looking around his house. Why, guess it's point and click time! Yippee! I think it's a good idea to look... Okay, top right. A small cabinet that held some dishes. Oliver rarely opened the cabinet because he didn't cook. Oliver began to pull the items out one by one. There was some dusty dishes and bowls and a pet food bowl. Pet bowl? There was something written in permanent marker on the side of the bowl. Ruru. Does that mean that the old owner had a pet called Ruru? What about the fridge? An old fridge left by the last tenant. It had an electrical leak that Oliver kept forgetting about. Okay, what about the cabinet next to it? A small cabinet that held some pots and pans. Oliver rarely opened the cabinet because he didn't cook. Oliver began to pull out the items one by one. There were pots and pans, nothing special. Okay, nothing about a trash can, nothing about a door, nothing about a sink. I'm curious about the raincoat. Oliver's sun cloak. Big with long sleeves. It covered him from head to toe. The material could reduce the sun's effects on vampires up to 80%, depending on the weather conditions. The only downside was its super heavy weight and bulkiness. It's impossible to run when wearing it. It was a gift from Robert. Oliver hung it there for emergencies, but he rarely wore it. Right, what? Umbrella? Oliver's umbrella. Just a normal umbrella, but it helped in rainy, gloomy days. Closet. A tiny closet where some of Oliver's clothes and books were stored. Nothing else in here. Laptop. Oliver's laptop. Oliver picked it up in the trash and fixed it himself. Very outdated and slow. Oliver was only able to do some basic tasks with it. Watching streams was impossible. What? Wait, is there something else I'm supposed to look at? Anything at all? The light? I'm not sure if there's anything else. I'm really not sure. What about the cabinet again? Okay, we've already seen all this. This is still empty. This is also... Well, it's not empty. That's just a fridge. What am I supposed to do now? I'm so curious. Okay, yoink. Man, I don't know. What am I supposed to click on? Okay, so I didn't know this, but there's a little box like right next to the cabinet, upright. So, yoink. The cardboard box that held some personal items of the old tenant. That's like nearly impossible to see. I thought it was another part of the wall. A cup, a toothbrush, some towels, and clothes. There was something that looked like paper poking out from a t-shirt's pocket. Oliver pulled it out. It was a photo. It was very faded, but Oliver could see someone holding a very tiny kitten. He couldn't make out the face of a man. Oliver decided to go out and ask the neighbors about it. After knocking on every door on the same floor, Oliver didn't find much information. Most people didn't open their door at night, and for good reason, and the ones who did kept a weapon pointed at him as they talked. They confirmed that there had been a man and a cat living in Oliver's room for over a year before him, but both of them went missing 3 weeks ago. So the old owner had been missing for a week before the landlord had rented this place out to Oliver, and had not even removed the former tenant's belongings? It was no wonder Oliver had been possessed. He felt so scammed by the landlord. The good news, even if it was rather grim, was that the old tenant had probably died outside. No matter how cheap the room was, Oliver had no desire to live in a cramped, windowless room that someone had died in. It would have been like sharing a coffin with another corpse. Oliver doubted even vampires could tolerate an arrangement like that. As morning approached, Oliver decided to lock his door and hide the key away. Surely a ghost wouldn't have a sound enough mind to look for a key, would they? And you wake up outside again. Yeah, boinkies. It was so dark. He was falling, flailing around to find something to grab onto. He couldn't breathe. It was so suffocating. He mustn't lose consciousness, however. Not before Blank was safe. Oliver opened his eyes and found himself knee-deep in water. What? He barely managed to keep his balance on the slippery, concrete-reinforced riverbank and avoided falling in fully. Damn it! Locking the door didn't work! Thankfully, it was already night, so he didn't have to worry about being burned. Wait, night? Oliver couldn't find his phone anywhere, which was a blessing because that old thing would have surely died if it got submerged in this murky water. With no means of checking the time, Oliver wondered whether he was late for work. He was sure that he'd been working in his room most of the day, but he couldn't remember anything from 5 p.m. onwards. Oliver hurriedly climbed up the riverbank and ran back home as fast as possible. The door was slightly ajar, the lock broken. The heavy wooden chopping board was lying in his room next to the door, a sign that it had been broken by force from the inside. Damn it, I just moved here 2 weeks ago. The landlord is going to be so unhappy with this. Oliver couldn't care less about the landlord's feelings, but he needed a place to stay. As he picked up the pieces of the broken lock, his phone started ringing on the desk. Oh no, it must be work. To Oliver's relief, it was Elias who was calling, not the manager. Oliver, you're 15 minutes late to your shift. Did something happen? Sorry, I'm in a bit of trouble right now. Can you cover for me for half an hour, please? I'll try to come as soon as possible. I can handle it. Don't worry. Just take your time. It's not like the convenience store gets lots of customers anyway, given the location. Thank you so much. You're a lifesaver. Do you need any help? If whatever is troubling you is too much to handle, you need only to ask. It is Halloween tomorrow, you know. What does that have to do with... It only really happens around Halloween, when the barrier between the material and immaterial world is at its weakest. Not for the first time, Oliver wondered if Elias knew something. This really was too much of a coincidence. Should he ask Elias for help? Whoa, no, I'm gonna save and ask Elias for help. Hey Elias, I kinda have some problems related to what I asked you earlier. Can we talk about that after work? After covering up his door and making himself presentable, Oliver managed to arrive at work. His shift passed uneventfully. What is it you wanted to ask me? You look troubled. So, weird things have been happening. Oliver told Elias everything, omitting the key detail that he was a vampire. You mean to say that the former tenant of your apartment is haunting you, and he carried your body over to the river? Yeah, feels like he was looking for something. Do you know what they look like? Might be able to find some information on them. I have this photo, but it's too faded to make out his face. Oliver handed the photo to Elias. This is... For a flash of a second, Oliver thought he saw Elias's eyes widen. Did something ring a bell? Do you recognize him? Is the cat in the photo his? Yeah, I heard that this man and his cat went missing at the same time. And you've been sleepwalking near the river next to the ruins of the old abandoned factory, right? Yeah, it's close to that place. Then, I think I know what this ghost has been looking for. Elias told Oliver to go home and wait until the evening to meet up at the riverbank near the abandoned factory. It was early evening. As the sun just set, Oliver prepared to leave to meet Elias right away. On his way out, Oliver saw several kids in makeshift costumes from rags and plastic bags who were playing in the hallway. It was only then that Oliver realized it was Halloween. As he made his way over, all the kids ran off in different directions. Most kids in this neighborhood were taught to never get in the way of adults. It was kinda sad, but Oliver was too broke to afford even the cheapest candy to give them anyway. When Oliver arrived at the river, Elias had yet to arrive. Out of the corner of his eyes, he saw a glowing blue light down a nearby alley. It looked just like the ghost he saw the other day. As Oliver was about to move over, his vision suddenly began to blur. Not again! Knowing he was about to lose consciousness, Oliver tried to fight it. It was a losing battle, however. His vision continued to get darker and darker as his consciousness slipped away from him. That's quite enough. Wait, what? Hello? Strong arms embraced his shoulders. Elias's voice was so close to Oliver's ear, his breath tickling his neck. Leave him alone. What you've been looking for isn't in the river. I brought it here for you. Oliver felt his head move against his will. Clearly, the ghost was in control, even if Oliver could still see. In his hand, Elias was holding a cage? Ruru? So the name escaped hoarsely from Oliver's lips. It was obvious the ghost had been the one to say it. Oliver's body sank down to his knees and opened the cage with shaking hands. The bicolored cat shot out and jumped on his chest, licking his face. Ruru, you're alive. I tried my best to throw you up to the shore, but I thought I didn't make it. I picked him up during the storm 2 weeks ago. I guess at the time you'd already drowned. Oliver's eye twitched at Elias's bluntness. He hoped Elias hadn't angered the ghost. Thank you. Thank you so much for saving Ruru. So he's called Ruru, huh? I've been calling him Palm, but he hasn't been responding to that name. Or to me in general, come to think of it. I suppose I have to make do with Ruru then. No, I think the name is the main I don't think the name is the main problem. No. Can you return the body to my cute friend? I believe you've caused him enough problems already. Okay. Tell him I'm sorry. Be nice to your new owner, Ruru. I'm so happy I was able to see you. One last time. Oliver could feel a weight lifted from his body. He blinked one hand, resting against Ruru's furry back. Ruru looked up at the sky and mewed pitifully. Oliver resumed petting Ruru and also looked up. There was less light pollution by the river than there was in the heart of the city, and it was shining with stars. He left. He did indeed. It was lucky for him that I adopted this little thing. Thank you. If you hadn't found Ruru, I'd probably be at the bottom of the river right now. Nah, that wasn't gonna happen. The thing would have worked out worse for the ghost than for you. Huh? Suddenly, Ruru jumped at Elias and violently clawed at his shirt. Meow! Elias picked him up by the scruff of his neck, his smile unwavering. My. You're a feisty one, aren't you? I didn't even do anything. Don't you think your anger is unwarranted? Oliver took Ruru from Elias and gave him a reassuring pet. Here. Ruru calmed down and nuzzled his head against Oliver's hand. Seems to like you. Too bad. No matter how hard I try, I can't seem to get him to relax around me. Maybe he just needs some time. He just lost his owner after all. Here, try rubbing this place. Oliver took Elias' hand in his and moved it to rub Ruru's fluffy head. Ruru, whose eyes had been half-lit in contentment earlier, cracked them open. However, he soon closed them again and continued to purr. You're surprisingly good at this. I can't afford to keep a cat, but I fed enough strays, back then, to know all their favorite spots. I can teach you. I'd love to learn. Consider this the way of returning my favor. Now we're even. Let's teach Elias how to pet the cat. Wait, what Wait, the cat petting minigame. Okay, the head. Ruru purred and closed his eyes in happiness. Not the belly, never the belly. Ooh, where the cheek? Ruru purred and closed his eyes in happiness. Ear. Ruru ignored your touch and turned away. Okay, what about the paw? Okay, maybe not. What about the leg? Okay, maybe not there. I'm curious what happens here. Okay. The scruff of the neck. Ruru purred and closed his eyes in happiness. More of the ear. You don't like it in the ear, huh? Okay, let's get ourselves clawed. Okay. Ruru got bored and decided to... No! Okay, let's do this right. Okay, on the head, on the neck, on the head. Oh, Ruru rolled over and showed his belly. He was purring happily. See? He looks happy. You really have a way with cats. Yeah, I'm impressed. If there's anything else I can help you with, please let me know. You've really helped me out there. You don't need to fuss about that. Simply being with you is enough. I beg your pardon? Well, never mind. Ending 1. Sweet. Now we gotta go for the other ending. Okay, so what happens if I don't bother him? It's nothing I can't handle. Don't worry about it. Oliver was at least a supernatural being. He knew better than to get an ordinary human involved in his mess. At least as a vampire, he was harder to kill than a human, so long as he stayed away from the sun and from enchanted items. Leo's face flashed through Oliver's mind. Leo seemed like he had the connections needed to deal with this. As a vampire, getting help from an exorcist seemed even more dangerous than dealing with the ghost alone. However, Oliver sighed in defeat and started cleaning up so he could finally go to work. The night shift passed uneventfully, without any more possession incidents. Oliver kept himself busy sorting the goods in the storeroom and avoided talking to Elias. Elias didn't seem offended and told Oliver to call him if he needed help before they parted ways. Oliver felt guilty, but it was probably for the best. After getting home, Oliver used some planks of wood to nail the door shut. He decided to barricade himself inside for the whole day. The day passed by peacefully. In the evening, Oliver could hear the sounds of kids running in the hallway, arguing about whose costume looked the best. Looking at the calendar, Oliver realized that it was Halloween. A feeling of dread washed over him. As if responding to his fear, he started feeling dizzy, his vision darkening. Oliver recognized this uncomfortable feeling. Could it be? No! Oliver could vaguely feel what was happening to his body. He was gripping something hard in his hand, and he was smashing something. Barricading the door hadn't worked after all. Before fully losing consciousness, Oliver was thankful that the sun had already set. When Oliver returned to his senses, his vision was still pitch black, but he could feel the surrounding environment. He was submerged underwater, the suffocating, muddy water dragging him down deeper and deeper into its depths. Oh no, he'd underestimated the ghost. Oliver was a vampire, so his body couldn't drown. Once trapped underwater, however, his body would shut down to conserve energy, and he wouldn't wake up again until supplied with blood. If a body floated up the river, giving it blood was the last thing anyone would do. They'd be more likely to take it to the mortuary. So if he was exposed to sunlight, he'd burn to a crisp before that could happen. Oliver tried moving his body, but he couldn't. The ghost must have used the last energy he possessed before it had disappeared. Oliver looked at the surface helplessly. Was this the end for him? Suddenly, Oliver saw an electric blob of blue light from the surface. Was it the ghost? Hadn't it left when he was no longer of any use to it? The surface light suddenly scattered and a black shadow broke through. It looked like a human. Was someone trying to save him? Oliver couldn't make out who it was, but he desperately used the last of his strength to reach out towards the figure. Finally, a hand grabbed his own. It felt warm in the cool water. Before closing his eyes, Oliver saw the face of his rescuer. It was Leo. Though Oliver had returned to the surface, he couldn't control his body. He couldn't move, couldn't open his eyes. The only thing he could do was feel what had happened to his body. Is he alive? It had been 5 minutes since I saw him throwing himself into the water. Faintly, Oliver could hear a kid's voice. So there had been a witness. Oliver had wondered how Leo had found him so quickly. He felt hands on his chest, pressing down hard. Damn it! He's not breathing! Oliver couldn't help it. He was still alive, but he hadn't the energy needed to stimulate breathing. Suddenly, Oliver felt a hand holding his jaw, forcing his mouth open. Oh! Okay! Warm lips pressed against his, blowing hot air into his mouth. He's totally just resuscitating us. It's not as if he wanted to kiss us all this time. It's not as if that's what he wanted to do. Warm lips pressed against his, blowing hot air into his mouth. Normally, Oliver would have been flustered, but now his body reacted with survival instinct. He bit into Leo's lips, drawing blood and sucked hard. The effect was immediate. Leo's blood seemed to be of an even higher quality than what he'd drunk at Robert's. Finally managing to regain some control, Oliver opened his eyes and saw Leo's surprised face, the lips still locked. I'm so sorry! Oliver pushed Leo away with so much force he fell over backwards, hitting the ground with a thud. Easy there, Oliver. Be careful. Sorry. I thought I was being attacked, so I bit you. Oliver stammered out the first excuse he could think of. Hey, don't worry about it. I'm just glad to see you're okay. Did anything happen to you, though? The kid over there said that he saw you jumping into the river. Oliver looked over and saw a kid who was carrying something that looked like a drone. Leo looked at Oliver seriously. He was obviously concerned. No, it was nothing like that. I'm not suicidal, I swear. I didn't lie. I saw you jumping with my own eyes. Look, I have a recording of my drone right here. The kid pushed some buttons and the drone glowed bright blue, projecting a photo of Oliver jumping into the river. Was that the light Oliver had seen in the last few days? The one he'd mistaken for a ghost? What sort of tech is this? See? It's clear that you jumped. Leo turned back to Oliver, looking even more concerned. Don't look at me like that. Wasn't me, okay? This is what happened. So a ghost had been harming you. I was afraid this might happen. That's why I told you to take my talisman. Seriously? You believe him? I think you both need to get help. What are you doing out here at this hour, kid? You should know this is a dangerous area. Plus, that drone isn't something a kid like you should be carrying around. If you have something that expensive on you, you might as well ask to be robbed. Where do you live? I'll escort you home. No, I'm fine on my own. Bye. The kid just disappeared! The kid ran off, clutching his precious drone to his chest, as though Leo meant to rob him. Is this really alright? He saved me. I feel like I should thank him properly. Nah, it's fine. Don't want him overhearing what I'm about to tell you anyway. Leo took a cross from his pocket and brought it closer to Oliver's body. My earrings are more effective at warding off ghosts than this, but they're currently at the cleric's for a bit of enchanting. This'll have to do instead. Oliver immediately scuttled back, putting his arm up to defend himself. I don't think the ghost is possessing me anymore. That won't work. You sure? As sure as I can be. Oh, and what's this on your arm? Huh? Oliver looked at his arm. Circling around the scuff of his sleeve was a small collar? A cat's collar. Oliver remembered the photograph he'd seen of the man and a cat. Was he looking for his cat then? If the collar was found underwater, then the cat had probably drowned. Taking the collar from Oliver, Leo pressed his cross against it. The cross flashed and burned the collar upon contact. Oliver scooted even further back, not wanting to let that fire anywhere near his body. What's happening? What's going on? Just as I thought. The ghost was hiding itself away in this collar after it left your body. In no time, the collar was engulfed in flames. Did you kill the ghost? Though Oliver had almost been killed by the ghost himself, he couldn't help but feel sorry for it. He'd been looking around desperately for his cat, and then he found proof that it died. It seemed like such a sad end. Now, I only burned the ghost's attachment to this world, so it can't hang around bothering people anymore. You'll be fine now, Oliver. Thank you, Leo. How do you know so much about this, though? I told you, I'm interested in this stuff. Don't tell anybody else, though. My boss will kill me. Oliver couldn't imagine the reaction of a gang boss to his subordinate's favorite pastime. Maybe you could leave your gang to do this full-time. Nah, no way! Well, you saved me, so thanks a lot, Leo. It's nothing. Just treat me to free food at the convenience store for a month. Sure, but please limit yourself to the amount my salary can cover. Oh, right. What is it? The bite you gave me sure was painful. Oliver stiffened. Had Leo figured it out? You need to learn to keep your teeth to yourself when you're kissing in the future. Otherwise, you'll hurt your partner. You completely ruined the So you were trying to kiss me! Well, I'm just a little curious. Like, okay, we know that Elias is into us. We know that Leo's into us. Are there going to be any more love interests in the future? Because, like, I know this is part of a series. I need to know. I won't mind letting you have another go. Do you want to Yes! 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 I mean, yeah. Just, just a little practice. Leo, please, just forget about that. Colin was running down the road, the drone floating next to him. Damn, did that guy follow me? Rai? Nah, he was busy being all chummy with his friend. Rai's response came from the drone. So that was all a bluff. I almost exhausted myself running too. According to my footage, he doesn't seem to be a bad guy. He's been rather active in this area, saving people and getting into fights with a lot of strangely violent people. I wouldn't have told you to ask him to lend a hand if he was dangerous. That's a good point. Why did you ask me to save that guy? I mean, I'd love to help others, but there's so much crime in this area and you usually ignore most of it. Why the special treatment? He tried helping you. I just wanted to return the favor. Me? I swear I'd never seen him. Do you remember what happened 2 nights ago when that thug tried to rob you? Oh, the one you paralyzed with your drone gun? The guy was running towards you when he heard you scream, and he sent an emergency message to the police on his phone. So naturally, I intercepted it. Whoa, he really does sound like a nice guy. Anybody else would have turned tail in an instant. And he looks so weak too. Thank you, Rai. I'm glad we saved him now. As am I. I appreciate everybody who tries to look out for you, Colin. You are very important to me. Damn, stop being so sappy, Rai. Ending 2. Anyway, that was Hardships of a Vampire. Really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys do want to play this game for yourselves, link to the game will be in the description below. I really like this story. This is a prequel to Hardships of a Vampire, and I'm fairly excited to see where the developer's going to be taking the rest of these characters, because, like, I love how fleshed out they are at this point. Like, who exactly is Leo? Who is Elias? What's their deal? I need to know all of this, and I can't wait to see, like, when the full game is going to be released. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of the day, and as always, I'll be seeing you in the next video. This is Lion, signing off. Ciao.